A very good morning to all the dignitaries, guests, delegates present here this morning. With immense happiness, I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all of you to the Roundtable discussion on National Curriculum Framework for Secondary Education. NCF 2022 would considerably revolutionize the educational space in the country. It brings a modern take to the education system through the revival of traditional ideas. The NCF 2022 has categorized the framework into 4 sections: the National Curriculum Framework for School Education, for Early Childhood Care and Education, for Teacher Education, and for Adult Education. We've gathered today to discuss the NCF for Secondary Education. It's my privilege to invite Mrs. Renuka Devi, Principal Soundarya Senthil School, to render the welcome address.
A fabulous morning to one and all present here. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, it is my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Soundarya Group of Institutions at this roundtable discussion. NEP 2020, implemented through the National Curriculum Framework 2022, would be instrumental in transforming the educational landscape of India. We are indeed fortunate to be a part of this process of change and make our own small contribution to this task of educational reforms. We are extremely happy to welcome Dr. Chetan Shingai, Associate Professor at Ramaya University of Applied Sciences. Dr. Raghavendra, Chief Consultant, National Curriculum Framework. Mr. Ajay and Dr. Kumaran, the colleagues of Dr. Chetan Shingai. Mr. Venkatesh, the Senior Consultant, Mr. Vallesh, Senior Consultant, NCF. With immense pleasure, I welcome Mr. Prasad, Principal KLE, who is Vice Chairperson for Sahodaya School Complex, Bangalore. We welcome you, sir. My hearty welcome goes to Mrs. Anupama Ramchandra, Secretary, Bangalore Sahodaya School Complex. I welcome you, ma'am. I extend a warm welcome to the members of managements of Sahodaya Group of Institutions, Mr. Manjappa sir, Chairman, Mrs. Sunita Manjappa, Managing Director, Mr. Kirtan Kumar, CEO, and Dr. Pratik Shah, Trustee Member of this group of institutions. It is an honor to welcome Dr. A. Senthil Kumaran, Chief Confluencer, PLC, today's facilitator. I extend a sincere welcome to you, sir. A warm welcome to the members of a warm welcome to Mr. Benny Kuriokos, President ICSC Schools. We welcome you, sir. A warm welcome to the members of various school managements, principals, directors, and all teachers present here. We sincerely appreciate your presence at today's event. I would like to extend a hearty welcome to all the teaching, non-teaching staff of Sahodaya Central School. Once again, I welcome each one of you to today's session. Thank you.
I also extend a warm welcome to the leadership of Sahodaya Group of Institutions who are present here today. Suresh Hegadi sir, Mahabaleshwara Tunga sir, Dr. Mahesha sir, Chinama madam, Lata madam, Krupa madam, and of course Renuka madam. We welcome you all to today's session. I think it's time to start why we have gathered here. So I now invite Dr. Senthil Kumaran, Chief Confluencer of the Learners Confluence, to take over. I'd like to invite Dr. Chetan Shingai to take over. Please, sir.
I think we also felt that shift from one place to another. Thank you so much again, respected teachers, management of Sahodaya Group of Institutions, specifically Dr. Pratik Shah and Kirtan sir for having this initiative taken, because it all happened in a very short time, and also it adds to the urgency behind this discussion. We call it consultation, but I would rather qualify this as discussion, because there's a lot of learning that we should have and should take away with us today in order to contribute back to our task as members of the Technical Secretariat to the National Steering Committee to draft the National Curriculum Framework. Before the National Curriculum Framework foundation stage, which in NEP we refer to early childhood care and education, happened. We used to have consultations at Indian Institute of Science campus, that is where the office of the Technical Secretariat is. So, Sir had come there from Purna Pragya, if you recollect those discussions. So, those are also very insightful and meaningful, and has also sort of facilitated the process. But today, we thought we'll come to you, and we were very happy that when Mr. Kirtan suggested that we can also do it here. Thank you so much once again, because without your support, and of course the principal of the school and all the faculty members here have really put a lot of effort in this short time, and we are so happy and excited on the initial sort of remark. Second is very often in education sector, we meaning you and me as teachers and learners are the last to read the document. I think we should be the first to take the ownership of the document, and that is also an intent of this consultation. Instead of doing it post-document, we should also do some discussion pre-document and try to understand what you have, in addition to understanding empirically and the evidence that you have on ground, because that's one perception, that policies are made in ivory tower, air-conditioned rooms, and so on and so forth. An IIC building looks like an ivory tower in a way. So, but here the intent is to know more from you, and my colleagues, Dr. Agwendra, Dr. Valish, Kumaran, and Ajay, we would like to hear from you more, and I'm very happy with Senthil has come forward to facilitate, because that way we are not biased, because he comes with such an expertise and experience that he can really take this discussion to a specific direction, and our attention is to listen to you. That is the second component. Third, why I said this, we need to know the NCF background. We all are here either the victims or beneficiary of 2005 NCF, right? So I would be optimistic, say beneficiaries of 2005 NCF, because that has really given us a direction after a long hiatus of a previous policy. But here the advantage is, which is very important as a case in point, is we have the National Education Policy 2020, and immediately we have the NCF. So there is a policy direction already set forth for the NCF. And also, one of the advantages of pandemic was a lot of time to reflect for ourselves on the document while we were facing the pandemic. So NEP is giving a lot of foundational principles on which the NCF is to be evolved. Giving one example of many so that we can align. Education to be seen as a continuum is a very important component. Till date, as you all have experienced, within school education we are seeing watertight compartments, right? Foundational or preparatory, middle and secondary. There are compartments. It's almost seen like a vertical. More than that, we also are not able to see the continuum from school to higher education and vice versa. So that is something, is another one of the important foundational principle of NEP, which is very much rooted into this drafting of NCF, among many principles. My colleague will add more on that. That's an example. Third important fact or factoid that you should be aware as teachers and principals very much engaging in school education is there are 4 curricular frameworks. In one curricular framework, there are 4 frameworks. One is the early childhood care or foundational stage, which is out already on 20th October. Second is the school education framework, which is what is currently being written. Then there is teacher education framework, and then there is the adult education framework. So another important shift from previous NCF to this, and we are not competing here, it's an extension because NEP provides a direction. So NEP also talks about holistic approach to education. This is the one way of looking at also, is that all 4 have been taken into account. So after the school education, teacher education is to be engaged with. Parallelly, there are efforts happening already, as you might have already come across, by NCTE and all others who are working closely. But adult education is a very important component again. In order to make the foundational stage successful, adult education is very critical because NEP talks about homeschooling, home learning as a very important component, especially age of 3 to 6, which is very, very critical component, because most often they come to school at the age of 6, and maybe preschools at the age of 4.5, 5 to some extent as play schools. But that is another important linkage. Fourth is that the committee, again, the steering committee headed by Dr. K. Kasturirangan itself is an example of continuity. The chairman of NEP and the chairman of NCF, there's a continuity. But there are other members who are associated, and very often this is, as I call it, as a blind spot for us. So sometimes the composition of the committee also gives us an insight. For example, we have Dr. Manjul Bhargava, as you all know, and a field medal winner in mathematics from Princeton, was also the member of NEP, and he brings in a lot of interesting insights on, and he is very much anchoring the writing process in depth. Second example is we have professors like Vishal Danino, who is a faculty at IIT Gandhinagar, and he also brings in very interesting insights on Indian knowledge system and curriculum framework. So in a way, these members are themselves a testimonial of the contribution to the domain of education. And then of course we have the National Book Trust chairman, our very senior member, Dr. Govind Prashad Sharmaji, who also brings in this linkage. For example, if you are making a recommendation, are textbooks important at foundational stage? Here is a person who is already part of NSC, who is heading that entity. So there is a sort of linkage at that moment, right? And then the discussion goes on instead of waiting for that full loop to complete. The fifth, second last point is the characteristics of the National Curriculum Framework. What are the core characteristics? And based on that, we had shared a concept note to Dr. Pratiksha and Mr. Kirtan also to circulate, so that we have an informed discussion and not limited to that. And I request Dr. Raghavendra to maybe throw some light on the concept note, the purpose of the concept note and the content. But the characteristics of NCF are the following. First, the NCF ought to be integrative and holistic. Number one. Number two, NCF ought to be empowering and enabling all stakeholders, not just teachers, students, but all who encompass school. Third, NCF enables respect to the federal structure of our school education system, because as we all know, education is in the concurrent list of the Constitution. So each state also has their right to come out with their own framework. But NCF will be a better framework on which the school framework are also to be evolved. Fourth is NCF accommodates major paradigm shifts in as recommended in NEP. First, holistic and multidisciplinary education. Second, emphasis on analytical and creative thinking rather than route learning. And then the shift that all of you are now experiencing, and we would like to know, please be very critical. We will forget that we are representatives of NCF and NEP, because that's how I'm sure the co-influencer, the person, the Sangama that is going to bring in, Senthil sir will bring in a lot of insights. But let us not make it a grievance redressal system, because we are not talking about policy, we are talking about curricular framework. So we would like to know on the curricular aspect, what are the issues, what are the possible solutions. Because when you have faced the issue, you will also give us solutions. But and our chairman is very, very keen on, that is Dr. K. Kasturirangan is very keen on having alternative solutions. Because that is the spirit of NEP, localizing curriculum, localizing the solutions. We cannot have one solution, one size fits all solution to everybody. But alternative solutions are welcome. But the reason I said this was we get into grievance mode because of the new shift from 10+2 to 5+4+4+3, 3+4. So that shift is a major shift, and many schools are already doing it. It's not that it's very new to us. But in this context, how would you see curricular shifts happening, and what are your concerns? And the last point I want to share was the NEP is anchored around 25 themes. NCF is anchored around 25 themes borrowed in reference to NEP. I'll just read out the themes. You don't have to discuss too much right now, but at least as a context. One is philosophy of education, which will include arts, aims of education, not arts, aims of education. So any curricular framework must have aims of education. Second, preschool education and foundational literacy and numeracy. Then curriculum and pedagogy. education in social sciences, vocational education, arts education, science education, mathematics education and computational thinking, language education, environmental education, health and well-being, yoga and sports, reform in examination and holistic progress card. So these are these 25 themes, but there are some cross-cutting themes. Why these themes are important is each state has provided state position papers on each of the themes already. Right, so these position papers, which runs into hundreds of position papers, are supposed to be representative of the federal spirit of the nation, wherein they have given already the feedback, and the technical secretariat was reviewing them very closely. Along with that, there was a national position paper written by the National Focus Group on the same themes. So one technical secretariat thematically, then were provided and inputs were provided to the National Steering Committee. So this is a process as on date. But the intent, I hope I have communicated, and I hope, and I am sure, with all the experience and expertise you bring in, and also the ground realities that you will highlight, will definitely have a great learning experience. So again, I'll take a pause, request Dr. Raghavendra to share some inputs on the concept note in few minutes, so that it will help Mr. Senthil sir to also align our discussion. Over to you, Mr. Raghavendra. Thank you.
So many principles and then management of different organizations, and also people who are interested in education, and something very interesting also to see someone representing even the online, say, teaching and then learning processes. As Dr. Chetan in fact very elaborately told you about what NCF actually is about, but today's discussion we want to anchor around few things in the secondary education. And it has been seen in all our discussions, be it at the NSC level or at the stage-wise group. One concern everyone basically has is about how do we really integrate this secondary education, which hereafter will be starting from 9th grade and will go up to 12th grade. I think CBSE, ICSE have already started practicing it from some time, but not so with many states. So this is going to be a major challenge. Also, NCF is going to specify on a shift from the content to the competency-based learning rather than the content-based learning which has been already there. This in fact will give rise to a major shift as far as our teaching methodology is concerned, then the curriculum is concerned, and most important, the assessment is concerned. And therefore, we are trying to anchor today's meeting, or maybe trying to say, if we can focus on the curricular goals for the secondary education. What should that goals that we need to set in? Subject-wise, yes, because now from the middle to the secondary, the teaching has to be subject-wise, and therefore this curricular goals has to be for different subjects. But at the same time also bring in the multidisciplinarity aspect into our learning. It's not that I study science, math, social as actually as silos, but rather have an interconnection between all these subjects. So this multidisciplinarity at the same time also bring in a proper curricular goals for each of this is something that we are looking forward as a suggestion from all of you. What pedagogy should we have? There's a lot of emphasis on the way that the learning has to happen at the secondary level, but now the learning according to NEP should be experiential, activity based. So more activity based learning will involve active learning methodology. So what are these pedagogies that one can have, and also the challenges, maybe in terms of time, in terms of facility, and also in terms of the teacher's training itself. So what are the challenges that one actually faces is something that we are looking forward for. I think all of you agree, principals, teachers, management, whatever the policy may be, NCF may be, our learning, our teaching will all depend on the assessment. The final examination that is there will set all the other things in the backward trend, and then our teaching, everything gets restricted to examination and assessment. And therefore, assessment will play a very important role, and we need to now shift from the content to competency assessment. I think this is where we would face the maximum challenge, I would say. How much should be formative assessment, how much should be summative assessment, what kind of summative assessment should it be done by the board, should be done by some central organization like NTA, will these assessment be modular, how to reduce the stress on the students, especially as the assessment is concerned. NEP is very specific in saying reduce the content, reduce the burden. Okay, how do we reduce the burden? Can we have multiple examinations so that we can take best of their performances? So can we give multiple attempts in the assessment, and so on and so forth. So this is something which I think we need to deliberate today quite a bit. We would also like to hear if there are already some best practices that your school, your organization is following already. Because we find in our previous consultations also, some excellent, say, practices are already there in terms of value-based education, in terms of occasional education, and so on and so forth. So we want to really hear from you all some of the best practices that your schools and the institutions have. The last one, which is not included here, also something which the time permit we should discuss, is about the occasional education. Occasional education will become part of the curriculum hereafter. Every student will have to undergo at some point in time within the 9th and the 12th some occasional training. It is meant for two things. One, if someone wants to take it as an occasion, or for getting that hands-on experience in different areas. So how do we really integrate this occasional education in the secondary education? Yeah. So these are the few things that we thought we should be anchoring on. I hope I covered all the points. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, if we just look at the CBSE number of subjects, because the 4 years curriculum, 4 years program can be divided into 8 semesters according to NEP. And in these 8 semesters, the students can actually take few subjects in the first semester and then other few subjects in the second semester, and so on and so forth. How do they really make that choice? And keeping also their higher education, expectations in mind, how do they really choose these subjects? What goes with what, I think is going to be an important connection there as well. So we need to also deliberate on that. So that's something which Malaysia also added. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Chief Confluencer of the Learning Confluence to take over. Prashanti, welcome you, ma'am. Mrs. Benita, welcome you, ma'am. Mrs. Seema Gupta, welcome you, ma'am. Mrs. Renu, Mrs. Usha Joseph, Mrs. Panakal Mary, welcome you all. Mr. Prasad, welcome sir. Mr. Dhanush Kumar, Dr. M.K. Raghavendra, welcome sir. Dr. Sanjeev, welcome you sir. Mrs. Robina, welcome you ma'am. Kakoli Mukherjee, Mrs. Kakoli Mukherjee, welcome you ma'am. Mr. Venkata Suresh, welcome you sir. Mr. K.S. Sridhar, welcome you sir. Mr. Valish again, welcome you sir. Mrs. Vidya Nagaraj, Mrs. Rajeshwari R, welcome you ma'am. Dr. Soya Nambiar, welcome you ma'am. Mr. Yashwant Raj, welcome you sir. Mrs. Bhanumati, welcome you ma'am. Mrs. Shampa, welcome you ma'am. I hope I have taken everybody's names. Over to Senthil, sir.
First of all, thank you very much, each one of you, right from the chairman of the school, because for the group of institutions, I would say, I think he took the leadership of trying to get all of us together in this particular hall together. The hall is also in the corners. I think the NCS cornerstone, which is very, very important. To the corners, I think the cornerstone, what we are going to give the inputs today to the team which has kind of been here. And I assure you that I'm not going to be biased either towards their side or towards your side. I'll be as, there's no side. Yeah, that's what it is. There's going to be a ruthlessly, truth which has to come out today, because I think it's for, we are, once the history is written, probably this day also should get into that particular part of it. So I consider this also a privilege that when this whole discussion came up on Saturday, when Keithan called up and Chetan and I had a call, I said, okay, we should be Keithan had a con call with me. I said, okay, let's just go ahead and do it. Luckily, here we are not asking people to do any research. We are asking people to come with a framework in mind, saying that, okay, you give your ideas, we will try to capture. How it gets integrated, it's not our responsibility. This is a forum to air. While the room is air conditioned, we don't have to worry much about it. You can still air your points. That's what is very, very important for all of us. Right? But before this whole exercise takes place, I've been one of those guys in 2019 when the first draft came in, and those 400 plus pages was something which was very interesting to see, read, and every time you read, you found something new in a new chapter. Maybe we were becoming mature after reading every time when we looked at the document, or we got a new perspective. And whenever we were trying to talk about this particular thing in multiple forums, in multiple schools and institutions which we work with, everybody said, this is not written anywhere in the document. No, I said you have to go beyond English. Just don't look at the English there. There is beyond English, there is something which is there. One simple thing which Raghavendra ji just talked about is the semester system of examination. Including with boards, I keep fighting. That's my role. In one of my avatars, I fight with the boards also. So I was telling them, no, get ready. Every 6 months you need one examinations to happen. So they said, how is it possible? How we need an examination team? And schools are much more worried. When COVID time, when we had MCQ, one of the challenges in many schools has been how many times we should have preparatory examination. Because more than examination, number of times preparatory examination was taking a lot of time, energy for us. So we really need to change. I think that's where NEP kind of brought in this new perspective to all of us. Thankfully, I had a privilege and advantage of traveling east and west. West it's Finland and east it's Singapore. And when I kind of go through this whole process, when I kind of after traveling to Singapore and to Finland, and when I read this particular document, I think it was reinforcing. I think we are in the right direction. And when somebody said that, no, this is not possible, I said, this is already happening. Then somebody said, show us an example. Then we said, okay, it cannot be done. It is not a match the following question kind of a thing. Okay, this is equal to this. No. It is being contextualized beautifully to different contexts. And that's something which is very, very important. But when he has set the context saying that we are going to work around 9 to 12, many schools are worried, okay, many managements are worried, what banner will we put outside the school that what rank did we get? Because that is also one of the major challenges. And in NEP, if it is going to come with 9, 10, 11, 12, 48 papers, 28 compulsory, 20 choice based, I think it's not going to be all that easy. Then you have to have a new idea. Maybe somebody is working on something very, very interesting. Let's wait, and if there is some new idea, that has to come out today from here. But before getting into the area and the scope what is being given, I wanted you to mentally prepare +1 than what they have done. Okay, so yesterday evening, when I was kind of putting the few slides together, saying that, okay, we need something to be set in the context. Otherwise, what will happen? Most of us sitting here are coming from regular schools. Many of us may not have had the opportunity to travel and understand what happens across the globe and why such a thing is being done. So I am not parroting what has come up in the NEP. I will try to give only Senthil's perspective. That's why I have a very independent, I don't have any organizational backing, so I'm very independent. So as many of you know, I'll continue to share today some of my thoughts on those directions. So first of all, thank you. This is the topic. And this is the scope what is being given to us, secondary education. Are we moving in the right or to the left? I'm not talking about any right, left. I'm only talking about are we going in the right direction or to the opposite direction. So this confusion, I think we will churn it out together. But what's very, very important in this is we need to understand that whenever we are going to talk on this particular discussion, these are some of the documents which we should keep up in mind. And I think some of these documents have already been mailed to you. And he said, Chetan said a very interesting thing. Unfortunately, the person who's going to implement or experience reads this document at the last. Okay, so that's something which we really need to look at. I still remember Sibbalji making one comment in one of the examinations, and Cambridge there I can see there are a couple of representatives. They were asked to, go through this NCF examination was conducted, objective type examination, compulsorily was conducted for the KV principles also. So somehow we have found better ways to do the implementation and make people to read. So that was one era, right? But when we are trying to talk here, I think I would request you to try to contain here. But beyond this, if you have an idea, please share, because there are people who are capturing the notes, whatever we are saying. So the request is, whatever point is there, the mic will come to your table, and we would request you to please refer. Don't try to, if you have something thought, say that this is not there in the document. I would still like to say, please register, because no good point must be missed out any time. And we need to say, we should have done this earlier, then probably we would have got a better idea. But the focus is all about the child. That's something very, very important. So we have to look at the child. We don't have to look at what we did with CCE. What we did with CCE, we should not be looking at. That time also, we forgot these two kids. The boy and girl we completely forgot, and we had the problem with English, we had the problem of assessment, and we had the problem of making sure how it can get killed. And we ensured that it goes 6 feet down. And that's how I think, we kind of worked upon it. So that must not happen now. The learning from the past is always there. I still remember when somebody asked me in one of the forums, Confluencer said, why do you think the CC got killed and NEP is now trying to go back in the same route? I said only one thing. First of all is the volume of the book. It was too heavy. So all the principals who were invited for the discussion, they came back and when they put it on the table, it made a lot of noise. The book, when it was thrown on the table, a lot of noise came in. And when noise came in, people thought, our principal itself is having a problem, then how we will. So the problem was not about the book. The problem was how it got introduced in your campus is something very, very important. So any one of these integrants, whichever you have to go back and implement, I think leadership plays a very, very important role, and the child has to be the focus. We need to reflect. When I try to go back and look at this particular whole document, I understood only one thing. It said, back to basics. It said very, very clearly, back to basics. Whatever in our custom traditions we have been trying to talk about is something very, very important. Now, if somebody talks about Mahabharata, and there are, Pandavas, if we try to talk about, I think Pandava, 5 brothers, 5 different areas, competencies, what they had, was actually there at that particular time. We don't have to come talk today about personalization of the education in that particular format. It has been already existing. Somewhere over a period of time, we lost that particular focus. So probably I think we really need to reflect that whatever we are going to share here, you really need to be going back and looking at what has historically happened in the Indian context. Take learning from them to strengthen the journey forward, not trying to criticize the past or trying to avoid the past. And that's something very, very important needs to be done. One of the things I think which you should go back and do a little research is on these particular concepts. We try to talk about education point 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to give any gyan here, but I would like you to look at where are we in terms of this. Where are we in terms of this? We had this Akshay Patra and everybody was taking knowledge. We were not filling it. So there was no refilling process of it. That's when the research, the critical thinking, all those things are now being very beautifully being included. So if you try to go back and do a little, I think it's very important for us as teachers to also read some of the things. And if you try to look at, thanks to COVID, at least we moved here. 2.0, we were compelled. So many technology companies said, oh, pado, technology, lesson plan, assessment. One COVID came, everybody aligned. So we should not require 2 more COVIDs to come to get into 3 and 4. But what it basically means is that we really need to understand that what are we trying to move towards. The next important thing which I would like you to look at is this. This is something which I picked up from Finland, from University of Helsinki in one of the presentations. This was very beautifully shared. And it very clearly, when I read this particular document in NEP and I look at 2030 and I look at this 2030, I can see a huge alignment. I can see a huge alignment between what was there and the 2030 document. And if you look at NEP, because the officials are here, 2030, the goals, what has been set, and if you try to read this, there is a very beautiful linkage. There is a beautiful linkage. And if at all, if you are trying to look at, you can see all that what you are trying to look at, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, all that is visible here. And it's a 66-page document you should kind of download and read for academic interest. But why all this? I think we come from this IT city where every time we hear either Mr. Narayan Murthy making a comment that there are only 12.35% employable, not employable, and an L&D, another chairman makes a comment. Everyone tries to keep making this whole thought process. The competencies required in the industry, somehow in higher education, we got it at least 7 years before the school education, actually, when we are embarking. The outcome-based education, or OBE, you can look at any way. Outcome-based education, competency-based education, these are English, but at the moral of the story is, if you don't try to target something and achieve that, you are not moving towards that particular direction. So the gap between the learning world and the world of work, learning world and world of work, is somehow, I feel, in this particular process is something. And why it is very, very critical. Why it is very, very critical in secondary? Because after graduation, if you try to look at, the NEP very beautifully talks about, you can decide whether you want 6 months program or you want 1 year program. You want to go and work somewhere, come back, and the break system which is being introduced is something very, very interesting. So if you try to look at this, because there is something behind this also which you need to understand while discussing. And I would like you to look at it. So there is some, now don't get up with this idea of saying that, oh, I am not preparing students for industry. You are preparing in English, in a simple term, child should be able to stand on his or her legs based on the potential, what he or she has, rather than what you are trying to dump him on them. This is what is supposed to be done. So forget about it. But what it basically means, if somebody has to go to the world of work, it is not only to get employment, but it can be also to create employment. So you need to look at some of these thought processes while discussing here today, and that's important. This structure, just to remind you, because many times this block, every PPT, NEP, both this structure comes in. But I think as school teachers, and all of us are here from school, being a teacher, I always felt I think the structure made a lot of sense. We had this opportunity of always doing this blame game. You know, secondary school teachers saying 10th are not taught properly, 10th saying 5th not taught properly, 5th complaining, primary teacher not taught properly, and pre-primary not. And finally when mother was called, you know, it's all about the father. Okay? So that's a challenge. So that's where somewhere I like this whole approach. We have been following something called as a mother teacher. Look at from the child's perspective. Look at from the child's perspective the cultural shock, what he or she gets when he or she comes to the first standard. He sees one, person who is running with that particular person till grade, nursery, LKG, UKG, and then he or she is just left to an open large scale. So now there is a clean handover, and the baton is passed on to somebody till grade 3. That is 2, and then 3 they are handed over. From 3 again it is handed over to 5, and again till 8, and then 9 till 11. So look at the structure. If most of us will surely agree, because we are all teachers, the 3 to 8 is the basic formative years. 3 to 8 is the basic formative years. I still never understood why they segmented it too, but later on I had another theory to find out, okay fine, this may be the reason. The 3 to 8 plays again a very, very important based on the foundation. And if foundation is not alright, you can't grow further. And I'm quite happy to see the first draft or the final copy, which has already been released for the early years. I'm still to go through. Let me accept it openly. I'm still to go through. I've started reading it. It will take some more time for me to do it, because 300 plus pages is not easy to read, understand and digest. Right? So it's very, very interesting that we have here, and today we are talking about desktop. If you are going to talk about 9 to 12, again there are some critical points. Many of us are talking about something called as, which is there in the WhatsApp University and some advanced education thinkers, that we will have board examination in 3, 5 and 8. That's also happening. I'll come to this, but yes. 3, 5, 8 is not about assessment, because 8th standard, when the child is going to move to 9, he or she requires data to make the career choices, to choose the subjects. They may have 30 subjects, 40 subjects being offered, but in that subject, how exactly it will be very, very important is something we need to understand. 3rd standard is more of a diagnostic assessment. My understanding, okay? My understanding. And it may be wrong also, but you have your choice to always decide. 3rd standard is all about diagnostic. Once you have the basic foundation, now you understand bacha kahan par. 2 years, 3 years, you give it. 3 years, you give education experience. You have given your gyan from the school. You have given an environment from your school. Now, how the child has evolved in grade 5, you are doing the first point of data collection. You are collecting the data at the first time at grade 5. So there is a progression. Which direction is he or she going? At grade 5, again you are exposing the kid, doing the assessment in 8th. But 5 to 8, 6, 7, 8, what are you doing? 6, 7, 8, what are you doing? I don't know how many of you have understood this concept of bagless days. Somebody asked me this particular question, sir, bagless days, khana lana, nahi lana, that day. It's not about khana lana, nahi lana. It is all about 10 days you take the kid out of the campus in 150 kilometers radius of your campus to expose to multiple types of vocations. You are not training them, you are exposing them. You are exposing them to at least 6th standard 10 days, 7th 10, 8th 10. So how many days? 30 different vocations you are going to expose the kid to. So 6 to 8 you have done, 5th you have done assessment. Now you go back and see at 8th standard again there will be an assessment, which will help the child to choose the course and career choices. Because you have the competency score, you have the right exposure, and you also understand that where exactly you are actually moving towards with the data point at 3, 5 and 8. So do you think now the child and the parent can make the choices better? And that's something which this particular part. So why I am asking you that, because you have to now discuss on this particular area after 8th. So there is a data point. So what is coming to your thought processes when you are talking about curriculum, assessment and all? You have a data point which is available with you to basically talk about to do this. And that's where in 9 to 12, I'm going to said in a different way, I will put it in a different way. 30 career choices you have done. Out of 30, you would like to choose some 4 or 6. Every year, at least 4. 15 days you will take up internship in the area of your interest, child's interest. And luckily, ICSE has been offering from 9th standard onwards. This has been happening for years together, right from the day when Cambridge left. Right from that day, the choice of subjects have already been happening in the council very beautifully. So I think this is a myth which it cannot be done. It is already happening, and it is happening in the council very beautifully. So the choice of subjects at 8 with the spread will be available for the kid to choose based on the internship what he is going to choose on. Imagine a 12th standard student, 90 days of exposure to multiple vocations. Do you think he will be able to make a better choice than somebody like 10 plus 2 on the examination? No? Everybody running towards one particular format. It was shocking to me 7 years ago when I was at council in one of the discussions. It was very, very interesting to see that students taking mathematics with economics and English, psychology, journalism, and computer science. So when you see these kind of combinations being offered, only challenge is the economics of education in the school may get disturbed. Yeah, we have to be truthful, right? We have to be very, very truthful. That the economics of education may get. That's where NEP also talks about resource sharing. If you have French, one student taken, if you have 1 or 2 students in French, in a community, there are 10 schools, that he is a common resource available, and they can go and do work in multiple schools to help the child. I think managements also may need to kind of change their perspective towards it. Now, this is where I think it's very, very important that the child is able to make this kind of a decision. Now, going back, now I think 358 assessment clear. So when you are going to go back and do the 8 plus, because we are only focuses 9 to 12. PUC enagate, nam kelsa irata, ilva, all those things we have to kind of get over it. And we have to think like a teacher, a passionate teacher, and then you will be able to contribute well today. Not only this, but all this what it requires is this. He said it orally, I am showing it on the screen. Because when you are going to go back and try to look at it, this is a very natural progression process. If you try to look at the play and activity, the activity evolves here. Play, discovery and activity. Then experience and then multidisciplinary. You need to look at the progression even in the pedagogical practices what you are trying to follow in your campus. And that's something very, very important you really do. So don't go by what Chetan said, okay, multidisciplinary. He just said that it is a natural progression. And please understand, when we try to talk about experiential learning, many of us, I'm not trying to ask any question, but a simple thing which I have learned is, you experience, it is not that put some water and color and then experiential learning happens, no. The thought process to reflect and apply into a different context is all about that. So if a child is able to take the concept and go back and apply it to different scenarios, I think that's something very, very important. So in case if we are able to try to do this, I think we have been very, very successful. And my only request is, this is where my major problem is, we teach English for 12 years. When letter of recommendation for a foreign university has to be written, there is a consultant sitting outside who charges 50,000 rupees to write 1-page essay for you. 1-page essay, we pay 30 to 50,000 rupees. That means our English department has failed. Child is not able to express himself in one sheet, so reflect on this point. Because that's what is something this whole exercise is. So please remember this pedagogical structure while you're going, when the questions are being asked to you. Above all this, this is what is something which at least the document says for now. It also talks about that you will assess and certify. Maybe, I'm not very sure. Maybe, I'm not very, very sure. You can see this side, or you can surprise the India market. Anyhow, this is just a couple of slides more and then because I want you to, I'm trying to create a environment for you to discuss, and every time I'm going to go back, I'll go back to these slides to just help you to kind of work around it. 4 years, you're talking about grade 9 to 12, 48 papers, semester system, flexible board examination, assessment of essential skills, focus on core concepts, higher order and foundational things. Now this is something which when So many people also talked about this particular point about how exactly we are trying to move into. So we really need to kind of understand that this is what the document says. And correct me, sir, in case if I'm
48 is not.
It's mentioned somewhere.
It says 5 to 6 papers in a semester.
So when you try to multiply.
Yeah, 5 to 6. So it's not really 48.
So but 20 and 28 I read somewhere in one of the documents, or in the draft document, was it there?
It's there.
Yeah, 28 plus 20 is something which, okay. Now when we try to talk about this, I'll just remove it because not to create confusion, but just to make sure, because this is my perspective, as I said, this is my perspective based on my own work in this particular area to understand more and break the system. So maybe this is what is going to happen. Maybe every child may get a pass certificate after 12th. Maybe. I'm not very sure what may happen. And if you have an idea like this, please throw. I am even suggesting every child will pass. But he will get a competency score separately on different areas what he has done. So it may not be question of pass, it may be question of course completion certificate. Maybe that can be a very radical idea. Okay, you can
Even for the second.
Okay. So that document also, I think it's not shared with you. We will try to share it. I'll request the organizers to please push it to you because it's very good to go through. But why I want you to spend some time if you know ABCD of credit. If you don't know, just don't worry about it. But whatever you know, please share that. Let's try to understand where are we in terms of those credits, because if that is going to be important for us for higher education. Yeah.
So 15 hours of theory or classroom content is equal to 1 credit.
Correct.
30 hours of practicals is equal to 1 credit. That is how it is being defined.
Okay, so you need to kind of look at total number of man hours you require to teach a concept or something like that and convert that into. And one of the simple things which schools I can start asking you is that you give these practice sheets to the children, assessments. There you don't write, practice sheets you don't write time. So please start writing time. Today already in our APP, annual pedagogical plan and annual plan, we are already allocating number of hours for how many periods for it's already happening from there. Only thing we have to kind of get that data out and put it in a structure which will come out very soon. And if you have some good ideas, please do recommend, and I think that's something very, very important. NTA, I think all of us know about it, I'm not going to talk much, but CUT is something I think is a game changer in the country. I consider this as a game changer. Whatever the 6 lakh students we are trying to talk about, 60 to 65 institutions we are trying to talk about, fantastic. Maybe there was a little technical glitch here and there, they had to do certain moderation, that's okay. Every time when we made first a dosa in the kitchen, I think it was not the same. We were never able to get a circle, right? So we keep struggle to get the dosa out of the tawa till date with even the non-stick. So that's one challenge which all of us have. So we don't have to worry about that part of it. What we are supposed to worry about it, this is the way forward, right? With this discussion, let's get into the first aspect. Any questions on so far? The format is, what I'm going to do is that I'll try to add people in different groups. There are only 3 settings, so I'm going to add 5 people in one group. So it's not necessarily that you have to face this side, you can sit in the circular form. So people sitting in the last, come here. Please come here. 5 or 6 people can come. We are not showing our back to anybody, we are just trying sort of a help.
So we know
offering currently 8 specializations. Can you study online? Rest of the subjects are studying online. That's a great thing. So Senthil took psychology from different cities, get a batch of 20 students.
And you can always get the best teacher. That is the best part of it. That is what impressed me when I saw your website.
ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅವ್ನು ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
Hello, just a few things. One, just quickly introduce yourself in the group. This is point number one. Point number two, we will follow a format. I'll just show the slide and the question on the screen. I would request you to discuss for 10 minutes in your groups, respective groups, about that particular topic. What is your view? Okay, there are some white sheets which have been kept. Okay, what are the possible challenges in making that happen? Please scribble it. First you write it in your own notepads. Request you to turn the page and write down for any two problems what could be the problem solutions. So you are trying to identify as a community 5 challenges for making that happen. I think we are on the right track. Yeah. Now the first is curriculum. Like we will take up one area. We will take up one area. Okay. And when we are trying to talk about this whole thought process, be very open. And it's interesting that we have international school experienced people, we have state board experienced people, we have CBSE, ICSE experienced people. So we would like everybody's point to be heard. And once we finish this, one of the requests which I would love, but if the time permits, I would like you to just get up, read out the 5 challenges and possible solutions. And we will take those sheets from you and we will compile it and hand it over to them. That's what is the whole exercise what we are doing. Are you in for it? Yes. Next 5 questions, 20 minutes each. First 10 minutes discussion and capturing that into the bullet points. 5 challenges what you will be capturing. Next 5 minutes discuss on the possible solutions, what could be possible solution. If you have experience, no, I am already doing it and you want a third solution, please write. And if you are doing something, please write the name of the institution because I would like them to visit you. Because you should become a benchmark for others to follow. That's the intent. Okay, you should become a benchmark for others to follow. It can be on values, it can be on any science, it can be on maths, it could be anything, whatever you are trying to do. Are we in for it? Yes. Thumb rule is, you can discuss yourself. I will just manage the time. I'm just going to shut up and now till the end. And I'm just going to run the slides, I'll explain and then you can take up that. Is that okay? Any questions? You can sit with one of those. Yeah, we'll move on. Right? Okay. So, statement and I would like you to kind of look at it. What are the key curricular goals for enabling multidisciplinary study with subject depth, focus on analytical thinking, attention to life's aspiration and flexibility in choice of subjects for these students. Request you to kind of, and there are representatives also, they will also add fuel to the fire, don't worry. I request them to, because in case if there is a divergent view, they will also add the fuel to the fire, right? So all the best, we'll start the time.
So first let us understand the question.
ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೇ
topic I can say a sign and how a social festival approach that and how English people approach that.
So that ma'am, that's in Cambridge. It's running for ages. So here what happens is we have two options which we can take. English is first language which we can take in where one of the feature of that paper is the choice method is to select in streams. Maximum. At least we can take sports and add measurements with it. So science expertise, students should be more practically we can maths, some measurement we get, 11th sports wise, arts wise this one we
No, science is a very much surveyed. One is there is the second up to 7. They have not studied in deep depth of science. But in high school, something they learn science and maths. If they are not capable to understand the concepts of biological things, they go for superstition.
challenge of writing all five papers.
Submission profile is clear. I'm bringing a small change here. So I think another thing we need to talking about was a nice point that you all brought in. Assessment of the exam, decide the country, and decide the not so these things come back. So in curriculum, other than assessment should basically follow the paper. So can we make it a I think this is the idea. Curriculum goal, what should it be?
Literature.
Indian parents will allow their kids to be a facilitator. Performing arts or something.
First 10 minutes.
Technology is so important. And financial literacy. Social skills. And technology is but how do we combine the
Yeah, it's on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we have just listed 4 goals. One is the flexibility in core subjects.
Good.
Construction of knowledge, connecting classroom teaching with the life situations, and career choices.
Wonderful. In the meantime, others if the same point is, they just put a tick next to it so that we don't repeat that. So that we kind of cut down the repetition. That's all. Thank you, sir. Okay, what is the problem solution, sir?
No, we are not.
Don't worry. Never mind. I'll give you more time in the. No, don't worry. Yeah.
So challenges we have put. It is the resources as a main heading we have put. That is teachers, infrastructure.
Can I request you to put your mobile phones in silent mode?
Yes. The teachers, infrastructure, willingness or acceptance, parental attitude. This is what.
Parental attitude. Okay, good. Thank you. Give it to this table, just pass it on.
Choices. Time and space constraint.
In terms of?
In terms of when we group the students, classroom allotment, space allotment,
Sure.
sharing resources. How good are the prospects for students with various subject choices provided?
Okay.
Will the role of counselor take a front seat for the choice of subjects in the school?
Maybe.
And definitely assessment pattern.
Good. And what are the problems? Okay. Don't worry. This is the first.
Assessments,
Okay.
which are marks oriented.
Okay.
So the solution is that marks should not define the competence of the students. We should move towards grading and credit system.
Very good.
The next one is that there is a part of assessment which is sent by schools, but that again is purely based on their academics. It's practical, they say, but it's about how whether
So
you
the 5 marks notebook and everything goes for a toss.
Yes.
Okay.
So the assessment part sent by the school should be for values, life skills, performing arts, digital literacy, financial literacy, and social skills.
Sure.
And the student at the end of the secondary stage should be able to make an informed choice about career paths, because we see children are just choosing career paths blindly. What do you want to be? A software professional. Why? Because we get a good job with good money. So they should be able to make an informed choice. If they are good at that, let them go for that. So we should give them that kind of an exposure. And as a teacher of English, I also felt that at the end of 12 years, like you said, they are not able to face an interview.
They will write about themselves.
Yes, 1 page about themselves. So I think in the secondary stage, we have to focus on soft skills, and that should be a criteria that do they have enough communication skills to go out into the world. And assessments should not be rank based, because today the system is the schools that get celebrated in the media are the ones who get the top ranks. So I think that should be removed, and we should not have schools saying that we got 100% result, we got the top ranker. They are not the best schools. Student profiling done to know what kind of a learner the child is. Okay. Is he a naturalist? Does he like to, is he an extrovert? Is she an introvert?
Yeah.
It's not done. So the solution is that student profile.
Do you think that as teachers, all of us have something called as PKC in the starting of when we design our lesson itself? We do previous knowledge of the child, we're supposed to do the
We do that, sir. Entry behavior, terminal behavior is done.
So why are we reinventing now?
No, it's not reinventing. It is a profiling done which is shared with the stakeholders like parents.
Sure. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Based on the curricular goals, we have identified one certain point, that is identifying skills of the children with multidisciplinary. The end goal be identifying their own skills. The students should be able to identify their own talents. The other thing which we would like to highlight here is higher education is changing, and social secondary education, which is multidisciplinary approach which we are trying to introduce, should cater to it. That is one challenge. And another challenge is the traditional textbooks. How are we going to align them to the multidisciplinary approach.
Okay, good.
No, we haven't exactly zeroed down on the solutions. We are still brainstorming.
Sure. Good, thank you.
Both problems and solutions together. Right, so please bear with us. So, first key point that we were talking about is age-appropriate soft skills to be listed. It is missing right now. That we all talk about soft skills, but then which are the skills which can be taught and which can be acquired? We don't have a clear-cut list, and also specific to a pertaining age, that is needed. Then subject aptitude tests to be available at the end of grade 8 for students, so that it will be like a reflector, self-reflection tool for the child, for the parent, and also the teacher should be able to help them and guide them for the core and electives in grade 9. So we all felt that currently the system of having a standard and higher level papers available in math, CBSE, right, basic and standard, we would want something similar for all the core and electives, so leave the choice to the child to see which they can choose, including language, like English can be taught as first language and English can be taught as second language as well, which is already in the international curricula now. So then multidisciplinary projects to be assessed at least for 50% weightage of the subject score. 50%. So so the project weightage will be very high, and of course this project has to be team based. It can't be an individual based. So we are encouraging collaborative work right from grade 9 level. It is happening effectively in private universities now. Private universities are already giving 50% weightage now. Then flexibility of choices, like even the assessments, if there is a possibility, like see for example right now Cambridge is allowing children to take assessments in November series or March series or May series. So if they have 6 subjects, yeah, they can do two in each of them, or maybe 3 in one, like that. So here if there is a flexibility, even with a semester system, so those children who are struggling, it will be easier. Then encourage vocational training as a part of multidisciplinary project. So that we would want vocational, not like a separate entity, let that be embedded very seamlessly with the project, so that the project will have some sense. We all felt that there's a lot of fabrication of scores for the projects, and everybody gives 10% marks.
20 out of 20.
So there has to be a system where there is a thorough review and rating for a teacher. After these are done, teachers have to be given rating as per the scores which are coming. Now, if there is a deviation more than 10%, teacher should be blacklisted, so that the project will have its essence.
Sure, good.
Then last but not least, domain-specific subject skills to be encouraged for career choices and vocational trainings, because most of the time we say critical thinking, but critical thinking how in math, how in language, how in science, it's a very, very important thing. Yeah, 2 major problems are like, okay, we are talking about all the curriculum and the goals, but are the infrastructures of the schools ready for the curriculum right now? The support, is it there? Teachers, resources, all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrying forward those projects and giving right informations or knowledge about the project, how to carry. For that, resources and infrastructure. It is supporting teacher. So the main problem, as we know that we give projects and children do cut paste. So there is the assessment issues. And then whatever we are doing in 9th, 10th, it is totally revolving towards 11th, 12th also, revolving towards the competitive exams. So that is a big issue here, how we are going to change 11th, 12th teaching if we are not changing the competitive exam pressure on students and aspirations of parents. This is we discussed. And time also. Time is also here a big factor, that how we are going
So when you say time, are you also trying to say that can we reduce the total curriculum load which is there on the...
Yes, yes, but proper structure is needed.
We should not just remove chapters how we did in the past during COVID time.
Yes, one of the best practice as we also follow is career counseling from 9th standard onwards, where child will be given informed decision about his abilities and his interest and his capabilities also. So it is not just one session or two sessions, it is number of sessions where in different ways his abilities can be assessed.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Next. Pass the mic.
All those things they have said. Now, as per the state board, 9th standard and 10th standard, science, mathematics, and social science we have added. Once they jump into 11th standard, and that becomes individual.
Yeah.
So their study physics has to be modified.
State board.
State board.
Karnataka state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second thing, in relating to commerce, they never study about accountancy, business studies, and economics in 9th and 10th. Maybe small, but once they jump into here, there will be question mark. So that makes a heavier load that has to be reduced, or we have to give a connectivity from 9th to 12th.
Good.
Then the syllabus will be framed in that manner, because I was explaining to him, a CBSE have 1:40 ratio. But when it comes to state board, 1:80 for aided and unaided or private colleges. Then for the government, 1:120. So now just how this can be implemented in a systematic manner, and they have been taught all those things, the failure.
Sir, more workload, sir.
Yes.
Now 40, so you have 4 benches, sir.
Then I was directly into the one time with the chief minister. They are never ever ready to give jobs to youngsters.
Okay,
So they are told basically that's different. Now how do you implement this to everyone?
Good. That's a good, very valid point here. Next
So
one is
everyone
written.
has to have.
What is written there?
So I have written same syllabus has been heavy when it comes to 11th and 12th standard.
Okay.
And syllabus doesn't have any practical knowledge at all. Suppose I am teaching commerce, small business. If I say retailer, I will say everything in a book. But do the child will have the same experience when they go out?
Good.
So that has to be implemented in the curriculum.
That's the second challenge.
Yes.
The third challenge.
So pre-counseling, now student will come to 9th standard. And what is his goal in respective subjects?
Fine.
Why it has to be given? Why it has to be taught? What for this? So they need psychological aspects.
Okay.
So psychological counseling.
I have a major problem there, because normally why I am adding to the fuel to that is the teacher who is telling also should have that knowledge, no?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, teacher is vomiting everything what they have gone through.
Exactly.
So
So
that's
that has to be done in B.Ed level.
okay, good. So there is a reverse integration.
Yes. So once it has been done, then automatically the what it comes out, it will be better.
Sure.
So that has to be B.Ed syllabus also be taken care of. On the point of view, what they are focusing on, 9, 10, 11, 12 standard.
Sure. Good.
So that makes real sense in this regard. So then only what we teach, what they understand, and what they pursue in future, connectivity of NCF will be added. Otherwise, no use.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Now this being the first time, so I have given presentation of topics. So next round, I think with all of our teachers, so we understand this model of not repeating the statement again. Okay. We paucity of time. Yeah.
One point on the BA, if we want to really achieve multidisciplinary study, I think one of the requirement would be to eliminate the requirement of BA to get those domain experts and teachers for 9 to 2. Exactly.
Okay, so the point what he is trying to talk about is something called as practicing professionals.
Yes.
Okay, look at that word go back and do a little research. Practicing professionals is something which we really need to kind of look at it as a very important point. Go back and do a little research on it. Okay, so thank you very much for the setting the goal. Now let's move on to the second important area. I think there will be a little musical chair which has to be done by the resource people little kind of move on factor. And I know that there is a blue book which is already available to all of you. There is a blue book which CBSE has released. Already people have started doing Control-C, Control-V from that. So fine, that can be the first document as a reference document for all of you. But what is critical is this particular part of it, experiential, activity-based and active learning. I'll just go with our friend, he said a very important point of large classroom model. So probably we really need to look at it, how exactly that can, and if there are some good solutions, I think we would like that to come up as part of it. In the large classroom setup, in a small classroom setup we can do. What are the current challenges to implement? Key changes or transformation required in teaching learning as a result of reduction of content. My request to you is that don't go by that COVID time scenario where lessons were just pulled out from the books. It was supposed to be reducing the depth of the syllabus. Instead of that, we just pulled out the chapters and reduced the syllabus. So here, don't go by that method what was followed there. You have to say, for achieving certain level of competency, what level of, is it an awareness level or is it at creation level? So go back and refurbish your, or rewind your blooms. I'm just hinting something. So just think of blooms while answering this particular question. Is that okay? Yeah, your time starts now. Thank you very much.
So what we do is there are different kind of activities happening, right? Like for example, we have sports excellence sessions for children. So where a large group of students go out and play because there's a lot of trainers who come and train them. So that time teachers are on 3 months for about 90 minutes. So that 90 minutes we do for training. It happens in the day. Oh, what I'm saying is, school leadership should look at creating some experiences within the timetable. So during the week,
Then tailoring, compulsory tailoring, and we have this stitching, different types of stitches, how it can be a small thing, how a frog or something can be set. Then doll, soft toys, and what wax models, all these things. So for both boys and girls. So this final thing is the cooking. So we are making compulsory.
I hope that can we move on now with the teams. Yeah, I'm going to give the mic here now. And others, please try to cut down on the points in case. Yeah. No, other person. Somebody else has to do it, not the same person. I would like from every team some new face or new voice has to be heard.
More frequently to incorporate the required changes and the skills. Theme-based curriculum to be introduced instead of book-based learning. Decompartmentalized subjects. So I will not explain further, but I hope that decompartmentalized subjects, when we are saying that everybody is understanding that. So like instead of watertight, like math teacher talks only about maths and the science teacher talks only about science. If we can decompartmentalize that, that can help. Transference of learning for real-life problem solving should be part of teaching learning progress. Advanced programming option to be available for students.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Any explanation needed for anything?
No. No explanation. No.
Yeah, this is group 2.
Just try to see that if there is a point, please start cutting it down so that we should not spend time on it here.
Yeah. Very quickly, the suggestions are no formal classroom, going to the environment. Any space, any corner of the school becomes your classroom. Second thing is that go for informal assessments. We focus on informal assessments than the formal assessments, and changing the tool of assessments. Now the challenges that we identified are only two: lack of resources, lack of infrastructure, which you can always find when we consider various schools. Now the solutions are student exchange program. One, sharing resources. Like for example, we have ATL labs, adult tinkering labs in many schools now. Actually, these ATL labs are supposed to be shared between schools, those who are not having. That's a good way of, finding solution regarding the resource crunch. Then in the school, another big problem is that bigger classrooms. So our suggestion is that make cluster of students, make student leaders, make them teach. First teach them and make them leaders in transferring that knowledge, experiential learning, whatever it is. It can be called as small groups of students or peer learning, or different names are there. Then regarding the reduction of content. When the content is reduced, what happens? A major complaint of teachers that we are not getting enough time to cover the topics. That will go away. And that time can be used for experiential learning. That is, you can allot more time towards practical learning. Then second thing is about collaboration between subject teachers. Now, let us not talk about a maths teacher talking about only mathematics. Mathematics teacher can talk about biology as well. In genetics, you talk about a lot of mathematical terms. That way, you can collaborate between subject teachers. Then, when few topics can be identified and given as group work, pair activity, cluster activity, a lot of activities can be done. This we are talking about the science subjects or STEM. But when it comes to literature or social studies, etc., you can incorporate, dramatics, role play. Instead of reading and learning, you can bring the classroom live by bringing in activities in the classroom. These are the things when the content is reduced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Same one.
Go to the next. What is not?
One is the professionals must be involved. Professionals of various fields can be involved into the class and classroom to community. So when you connect in such a manner, I think we can have a greater learning experience.
Good. Done? Okay, fine. Just pass it. Just pass it back.
The solution for that, let agency-sponsored enriched education center be set up on region basis or cluster based, easily accessible to all the institutions, maybe by having PP model, private and public model, one, problem and solution. There is no uniform model relating to activity-based or active learning methodology. Let there be a uniform model of a teaching, learning, technology-based resource bank. Resource bank be created and easily accessible to all the institutions. For example, in
SWAYAM is there, NPTEL is there. Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Likewise, if it's set up in a region basis, let all the institutions to access that. It will be, I think, majority of the problem can be solved.
Sure. Good. Thank you.
Pedagogical teacher training, that is constant professional development, so mandatory hours to be deployed, and improve activity-based learning, focusing on competency. Competency building should be focused.
Sure.
Then age-appropriate curricular goals with competency to be set in the beginning of, before the commencement of the academic year. Then focus on applied learning, then team-based learning and project-based learning, so that the collaborative and cohesive learning happens. Then teaching and learning material to be revised according to our necessity. Then work on building an internal curriculum and test the activities with outcomes, learning outcomes.
Correlation between the LO and the
yes. Thank you.
Due to reduction of syllabus, concept connectivity due to reduction of syllabus may be at stake. Second one, connecting the subject knowledge to day-to-day experience is also one of the major challenge. Next, implementation of training important in day-to-day activities. Implementation of training important in day-to-day activities or learning. Teachers' capability to be enhanced for the teaching learning process by giving in-house trainings. Rich local knowledge with the teachers to connect with students. And other points they already.
Sure, thank you.
Be more self-directed, meeting the desired learning outcomes, understanding the changing technology, and more importantly, transformation from content to competency-based classes.
Thank you very much. I think most of the points which came out quite interesting was when it comes to pedagogical, somewhere we went into assessment, but I think that was required because you can't, when you say LO, you really to make sure that the LO is achieved or not, you need a good assessment. Eminent educationist, and he said, "Ek 360 karega, sab theek ho jayega." I said, "What is the 360 karega?" It is not SWOT analysis, sorry. It doesn't mean SWOT analysis, it is beyond that. It is talking about a self-assessment, it talks about a peer assessment, it talks about a parent assessment. It also talks about the teachers capturing the scholastic and co-scholastic, supported sufficiently by evidences of learning. Right? If this is the kind of assessment which we are trying to talk about, then obviously our next area is assessment. Right? So if that is the area, then I think we should get into the assessment and start looking at it. So give some 1 minute for the team to move around. Keyword here, many of us, even as schools, at least in higher education, we call something as called as student attributes. In school education, till now, I've been working with across schools at graduate attribute in higher education level, but I'm talking about your school student. What are the 7 lakshan? Okay, I call that as what are the 7 lakshan. Keep that in mind when you're trying to look at the second part of it. My request is talk from that particular perspective. If you talk from that particular perspective, you'll be able to understand how can the competency-based assessment to be implemented as part of the overall assessment methodology, and what are your suggestions for designing a holistic progress, and how will this be helpful for all-round development of the child or learner. So I have given you 2 clues. One is on 360. I have also given the clue on how exactly you are trying to look at the attributes connection to the assessment. So if you are able to look at that, you will be able to come out with new ideas, right? 10 minutes starts now.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
As per our discussion, percentage to percentile grading would be ideal.
Percentage to percentile. Okay, very good.
Then standardized rubrics to meet competencies.
Very good.
Then differentiate papers need to be set. Yeah. Then we are facing challenge in qualitative formative assessments. And we need to implement effective assessment strategies and progressive report card over the years.
Progressive report card. Okay.
Portfolio.
Portfolio. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let Aaron go to the cards. Yeah,
Yes.
please add that. Please add there.
Sure.
Then let it go as an important point. Yeah. Others just start coming down in case if your points are already covered.
To be collected, like as ma'am said, portfolio or student profiling can be done. And assessment should also align with curriculum and pedagogy. And for holistic progress, along with the academic assessments and all.
Sure. Thank you very much. Give me the sheet. Write your number and give me the sheet. Yeah.
Sir, in assessment, formative assessment to be implemented to examine practical knowledge and hidden talents of a child.
Very good.
Hidden talent should be examined. Yes, in this the child, why we say this no, to avoid copying things.
Very good.
So otherwise they go for Google. Competency based assessment can be implemented.
How?
So, sir, actually according to conditions, their IQ, child condition and their IQ, competency based assessment should be done.
Sure.
Okay. To do this, we want to reduce the child ratio. I mean, student-teacher ratio.
Sure.
Yes, because we have more numbers. And multiple methods of assessment should be done. I mean, according to the caliber of the student, mainly the IQ. Yes, whether what we teach, by that changes are there in the student. Sure. But if improvements are there, means we should go for next assessment.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. A lot of points were already discussed in the other groups. 360-degree report card for the overall assessment and not for admissions to senior or professional courses. Remove the boundaries between the boards in terms of assessment, and also parental feedbacks can be incorporated in some sense.
Good.
Formative assessment to be continued, because continuous evaluation helps the teacher to evaluate the child throughout the year. And as everybody said, the holistic progress card, it ensures the all-round development of the child without any mental stress among the students. And competency-based assessment can be done through case studies, and problem-solving skills will be enhanced. And rest of the points have been told.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I think I just add one or two many of the points discussed. One is competencies as such should be mentioned in the progress card, and the progress card should have components of values, soft skills, community service, sports, games, performing arts, etc. One challenge we have recorded over here is that any of these, except for the marks what they've got, nothing is recorded in the report card. If it is recorded, I think it would be much better.
A complete portfolio or something.
Kind of what the kid has done for that particular year, student has done. And report card should be designed such that it should be diagnostic rather than judgmental.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hello everyone. Yeah, so most of the points are covered. One of the things for the test, the competency test could be, student shouldn't know that he's been assessed. So that will lessen the burden of the child.
Pressure.
Yeah, pressure on the child. And also implementing sports and LSS and co-curricular activities from 9 to 12th grade in the curriculum, so that will be holistic learning amongst the students.
Sure. Good. Thank you very much. Can I have the sheet? Okay. Now, going forward from here is the next very important puri. Okay. It's not bhel puri. Even in bhel puri, the fellow who makes the bhel puri first asks you, kitna meetha chahiye, kitna tikha chahiye. Okay. So that statement is first asked by the person who's going through that particular process. So, if you are trying to talk about multidisciplinary, worldwide, wherever we have seen experience, people talk about only one project can be one of the methods. One project annually can be a part of a method, so maximum for one semester one. But this requires a lot of reverse planning to be done by the teaching community on understanding. Already we are doing it in our schools in one or the other form in the early years. In the early years, we call it as a theme-based, some people call it a web-based. Those words, I'm just giving you the keywords so that when you're discussing, it will become easier for you to look for it. So look for how exactly we can integrate the key concepts of different subjects. I think some of you might have also heard, no? There are no textbooks in some country. I'm giving you another clue. Okay, so you have to go back and start looking at it, how exactly all these things can kind of be helpful for you. And that's nothing but talking about multidisciplinary. What I have understood personally is, when you try to talk about multidisciplinary, one side is the content or the concept, second side is the school value system also. So somewhere look at the school value systems also very, very clearly, that what kind of environment are you trying to create where this is happening. Because it starts with, predominantly it happens as you go after 8th standard onwards. 8th standard onwards, we see schools as Navagraha temples. No department, no HOD, nobody looks at each other. Everybody thinks that they are the best. Okay? So it is not about that. It is the Navagrahas also have to be brought under together. If you need to bring them together, then you need one, ring with 9 stones. So what is that 9 stone? Please find out and discuss now in this particular session. Thank you very much.
What is the ROI?
Just convert it into text. By the time the others are trying to talk about it. 4 has done, 5. Sir. Got it? Done? Okay. Now, I'll hand over the mic to the last, what do you call it? This side? Sir.
According to our team,
okay, let's.
Disciplinary research, study material in the form of a book, other project, other booklet should be introduced, which includes the concepts of all the subjects.
Okay, so that means examples needs to be given.
Yes,
So suppose if there's a concept and you need around multiple areas.
Booklet
Sure.
that inculcates all the concepts of different subjects.
But this should be given to the student or the teacher?
Both.
the points discussed here are: school needs to identify international projects, multidisciplinary competitions, think first, design thinking, etc.
Design thinking, okay.
ATL should be more of, children can make use of ATLs.
ATL.
Look for opportunities to create basic projects which can assimilate into futuristic courses. Example, agriculture, research based.
Career courses, okay, very interesting, okay.
Live and practical projects that can relate. Generate an idea, value-based and sustainable-based projects.
Sustainable projects, okay, very good.
These are the points
Sure.
discussed. Identify a problem and find a solution. Generate an idea to find a solution for this.
Okay, find a solution for every problem, that is kind of problem.
Yes.
What we are suggesting is, you don't need to create anything. Ask children to identify a problem of their own school or their life.
In and around them.
In and around them. Solve it. That's a multidisciplinary.
Okay, that's one of the approaches.
Yes.
One of the approaches. Okay, but for that you need to train children on, because my only worry in that kind of model, not judging, like there are something called as quality circles. So people solve the problem and then put it in the structure. That is wrong. Okay, people need to take sequence of a process, because education itself is a process and we need to kind of look at it.
That guideline will be given.
Sure, fine, thank you.
And to bring it to the level of 9 to 12, the assessment should be started in the early stage. But establishing in the early stage is the task.
Establishing an early stage system. Okay, fine, good, thank you.
Concept. Brainstorming should be done by all the 6 subject teachers to frame a book, so they will be having connectivity. Core values to be integrated.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
So, most of the points are common, but yes, a few things like multidisciplinary approach. Can I just say that? So, anything which we need to bring to the students level, we believe that first it has to be with the teachers. So, multidisciplinary approach should be a part of the teacher education. When we have the BEd program, what happens sometimes is too much theoretical whenever we are in the BEd program. So, a lot of practices like that should be happening in the BEd program, so that teachers get examples and how they can take it in their classes. That is one thing. The change that happens between preparatory and middle level is a challenge. Like we all have seen that in primary school, most of us are having various ways of doing things, but as soon as we come to 6th, the whole approach changes. And that depends a lot on assessment. Right? So that is one thing. And doing away with dependence on the textbooks, that would help.
See, actually, we need to rephrase this particular statement just for the benefit of everybody. Textbook is just a medium. Somehow we guys are getting stuck with the textbook and then we are not kind of able to come out. So my request is just use it as a medium, that's all. Textbook is just a medium, rest of the thing is only we are trying to But ma'am, the problem is the mindset issues.
Yes, it is a mindset.
Because the teacher says, as soon as I am teaching, children, 10 marks question.
Exactly.
That's all, the story over. Rest is 5 marks question, the story over. So the teacher has to first kind of appreciate that particular point, ma'am, completely appreciate. Yes.
To the students, so where one project will address all the subjects.
Sure.
Similar way, ma'am was having suggestions to give like a theme-based day. Suppose we are picking one theme, all the subjects we will have like interning with based on the theme, and then giving a similar weightage to all the subjects, especially sports and humanities. If you see in our curriculum, these two become like additional subjects. So incorporating those subjects in core subjects. So first thing, core subject concept, we don't want to say core subjects. All subjects are equal and giving similar weightage to all the subjects. So that should happen. And that is going to help the child identifying his or her interest. Suppose the child is very good at sports and if the child doesn't get that exposure at school level, then child needs little time or going for additional classes to identify that.
So if we could provide this kind of platform at school level, I think that will help the child.
Thank you.
After problem identification, how do you integrate all the subjects in that problem? Then after that, approaching the problem with different aspects. Then collective efforts from teachers to come up with pool of ideas to facilitate the learning process. Then problem should help the student in real life. For that, we need a strong mentorship. Without strong mentorship, we cannot follow all those things, all the points, and it has to be lifelong learning.
Yeah, that's what the other team also said, that real time, let them go around and try to find out, instead of going to industry and trying to find what our project is available. I think let them try to find solutions to their own issues. Good. So thank you very much. I think, inputs which have come in, but only thing is that be cautious. I somehow, this integration and multidisciplinary always has been a big challenge in schools. Okay, okay, where is your brother, sister? Oh, they are all from our community. Like that must not happen. So the whole idea is that contextualization, giving, I call it in a very simple way, 3M 1E. If you follow 3M and 1E, I think material method. If you start looking at these 3M, that is man, material, it also includes women. Okay, don't say that we are, I'm biased. Men actually means women too. So when we try to talk about men, that is nothing but the people related. And third is the material related to the stuff which is happening around. And the fourth one is environment. If you try to look at 3M and 1E model, I think multidisciplinary can make your life much more easier and start from achievable and doable. And this is what is actually critical thinking and all these, all that English which we use, 21st century, 22nd century, all that English what we use of 7C, 6C, 4C, all that C is nothing but CS. If you have good CS, if you are able to invest on the child to help her CS to improve, I can tell you he or she will be able to find solution to all this. Okay, thank you very much for all the inputs, but I'm not going to change for the last part. I know that we have a lot of good practices and every school would love to share at least one particular practice, but I would like you to just focus. I know that from LKG to 8, a lot of experiments happen. But when it comes to 9, 10, 11, 12, I'll just give you one of my experience recent, day before yesterday. I was in one particular campus, and in that particular campus, there was a very unique challenge, particularly this EVS. Such a painful thing. How much of science and how much of social, still there is a big confusion. Now, who will teach? This is again a workload problem. This is a workload problem, whether it has to be taught by the science or by the social. Because if social person is teaching science, half-baked knowledge only will come. Actually speaking, when we say TGT, we are supposed to know all that, but it doesn't happen. Let's be. Yeah. Oh, very good. Okay, so when we try to talk about this particular, the biology and social studies itself is a big problem. So when you try to talk about multidisciplinary, I think the challenge is quite high. Because I asked one of the traditional, social studies teacher, a BA trainer, she said, oh, all this is higher order. In social studies, no need of higher order. They have to write. If they don't write, they can't do anything. So I think all these are very beautifully interlinked. All these are very, very beautifully interlinked. So what is to be done is try to find out what is the best thing that will work for you. And if you have experimented something in this direction, please do share. And I'm just going to pass the mic. Per school, only one case. If you have, otherwise it's okay, there's no compulsion. If you think you have experimented something in 9, 10, 11, 12, like I can tell you something very interesting. We have tried with entrepreneurship in a school, 11th and 12th. We have a clear-cut framework, agile framework, which is called as agile framework, which tries to translate into all the activities of the school. So it gets mapped and it gets mapped to the subject too. So if a social studies student is trying to, or a humanities student is trying to get into this, he is able to try to see that how exactly he can leverage on tourism. How can he convert tourism as a business opportunity? Because I don't know how many of you know that there is something called as Varanasi Walks. Go back and do a little Google on it, Varanasi Walks. Varanasi Walk is all about India. But the person who is running this particular company is not an Indian, unfortunately. He is an expat who has come, settled here, and he charges quite a lot of money, and he has said, but 2 hours of walk in Varanasi, he charges around 1,500 rupees. And every day evening, he has, at least 2-3 batches running. So I was talking to this particular gentleman, you can go and do a Google on him, Varanasi walk. He said a very, very thing. Now he has started doing, identifying Indian people and training them how to take them through this particular walks. Mysore walks is happening, Bangalore walks also happening. But how many people here we have actually experienced this? So this itself is a career opportunity. Yes. Because somebody, I overheard somebody saying, how do we try to look at it? And one more suggestion to this team is, when you're trying to go back and look at vocationalization, my request is that change the definition of vocationalization first of all. Somewhere it is connected, it's so cliche to use that kind of a word when it comes to electrical, plumbing, carpentry. Why a sculpture cannot become a vocation? Why a theatre cannot become a vocation? Why somebody whose voice can be lent cannot become a vocation? Is something which I would like to push. There's no money. No, there's no money, ma'am. The problem is there are all practitioner professionals are only available. There's no academician behind it. Unfortunately, there is no academician which is behind it, and we are not recognizing it. But in Karnataka, Coimbatore University has, I think Coimbatore Study Center has experimented something in this particular direction. So some learning can be taken from there. So this is my suggestion, right? So if you have tried something in 9, 10, 11, 12, which is little different, just raise your hand and I'll come with a mic to you. 9, 10, 11, 12, any good practice on what all we had so far? Anyone you would like to share, feel free to share. Yes, ma'am.
We have given students an opportunity to have their own market in the school. So that they have gone through with all the things, they learn to invest on whatever the things they have bought, as well as they learn to communicate with the parents. They have understood what is the volume, what is the quantity, what is the mass, and what is the loss, even emotions. If the things are not solved out, they understood the pain of the parents or the sellers or whatever it is. So that opportunity we have given to the children. And one more thing, we have given the seeds to the children because we have 2 acres of land in our school. So we made them to grow their own farm, whatever. So they have grown it and they understood how the seedling or whatever the time we have. So germination of the seeds completely they have understood from 3rd standard to 10th standard. So that, so many value-based education also we are giving, like Amana Mana program,
Sure.
Guru Namana or something like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Which school? Can you tell the school name, please? Zen International. And I think there are some experiments like farm to fork, farm to market, farm to table. There are multiple models which have been tried. Good. It's all the experience which the children need to be done. I think that's very important. Yes, ma'am.
So we have some science inspired program which runs every Saturday, wherein students are exposed to different scientists and the talks, what are the research that is happening in the existing mode, and also we take them for ecology walk, right? Then we take them out to forest and see the behavioral pattern of animals and all these things. So they will integrate their studies with the nature as well. They connect with the nature, and also they'll have insight about what is happening right in the society as well. So we'll have, we have certain programs wherein they even go to research labs where they learn, know what is happening in the research field and then connect it with what they study.
Sure. Good. Thank you very much. Yeah. Somewhere. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you one. Okay, you can say that. Okay, I'll tell you one more method which we experimented in Chennai corporation schools. There's something called as a parent talk session which is being introduced. In the parent talk session, what interestingly happens is that every month there is one parent who comes and talks about any vocation, whatever they are trying to do. The double advantage what we found out is that when this parent comes, they have never been called to a school. Okay, they have never been called. Either they have been called, they have been only called for blaming, all negative kind of a thing. Positive very rarely comes in. So what we try to do is that we try to get the people who are selling Rasna outside the Chennai Corporation School compound wall. There was a lady who was selling Rasna, juice with sugar, how she used to kind of make it and put ice and keeps it ready when the children will come, and how she makes a living out of it, something very, very interesting. But this is where what happens is that you schools must try something called as a PEPA program, Parent Engagement Program. In that Parent Engagement Program, you have 30 children in every class. At least 5 occasions you will be able to get. Don't try to look at only those white collar jobs. Try to find out how somebody is able to go and try to survive. The question of, because this also brings in the orientation towards how exactly the learning world is all about. And you don't know, teachers, all of us in this room, we have inspired minimum one student to become like us. While they do everything in the primary years of correcting their dupatta or sari like their teacher, they go back and actually learn from their teacher in their life and they remember. So teachers, content, concepts, nobody remembers. Your practices, people remember. So please go back, start reflecting, making a PEP calendar and start rolling it out. With that, but anybody else? Only one, yes, sorry.
I'm from DPS Electronic City and I have my counterpart here. She's from DPS West. All our branches of Delhi Public School, we have a concept called as a hobby club. It happens once a week and the students of all the class must choose one hobby club of their choice. And we have nearly 20 to 30 hobby clubs which function, and we take care of having hobby clubs of all subjects related to science like robotics, we have aero modeling, we have cooking without fire, we have skating, we have ballet, we have singing, we have debate, we have everything, like verbal, non-verbal, performing arts, games and sports. So children can change their hobby club once a year. So this gives them an opportunity of actually trying out a lot of things. And over the years, we have discovered children who have identified their passions, their interests, their competence, and have taken it up as a profession. We have children who have become sound engineers, we have children who have become orators, we have children who have become, even they've gone into politics because they had internships. So this hobby club is a somewhat similar model of introducing vocational subjects, but we do it in a more elaborate way, and it has really been helpful for the children.
Sure. I would also request you to try to look at culinary, bakery. A classic example could be Levon. I'm not promoting anything, I'm just telling you a simple example. Levon has a very interesting model. Culinary Club Studio in Bangalore has a very interesting model for students. So there are different people who are experimenting multiple things. Only thing what we really need to know is how do we try to integrate on our routines, because while clubs are very, very important, and by definition don't compel people to join a club. Club by definition means what you are passionate, you should go and join there. Whether it is for cards or whether it is for horse riding or whether it is for anything else. But club has a different meaning. So let's try to understand that particular meaning and implement things. With that particular note, if I'll just take one or two reflections, how the whole experience before I formally thank and hand over the session to your reflections. Yeah. Yeah, fine.
Wonderful couple of words. Whenever everybody goes to meet somebody like you, it's all principals and people from management. Need to take an appointment, wait and get the vehicle. But to have you, all of you, so many people locked into a room and have your attention and your inputs for over 3 years, definitely something that is really appreciable. And thanks to Senthil group of institutions and for organizing this, and more importantly for every one of you to take your time out and spend with us. I know how precious your time is. I know how, I'm sure most of you would have got so many calls which you haven't been taken, so many messages saying where are you, we need you, kind of thing. But really, essentially, we really appreciate taking
your time off and spending it with us. For us, as part of the TSG group, supporting the development of NCF, what we have been doing and what the NCF, the National Steering Committee headed by Kumaran has practiced and put in so much of effort is the entire NCF is built bottom up. It is not that earlier in the efforts have been, the curriculum frameworks have been created by experts, and then everything was handed over to the downstream to the schools and teachers to implement. Essentially, what NCF is, the approach taken by NCF is to make it bottom up. I know it's been a long day, just to take a minute or so to give you kind of a glimpse of what it is. As Dr. Chaitanya was mentioning in the morning, NEP document was kind of 25 themes were identified out of the NEP document. Every state was asked to create a position paper on each theme. So essentially, each state contributed 25 position papers running into 50-60 pages, and approximately 8 to 10 experts from the state was involved in each paper. We've got inputs from 30-odd states, which is about 750 papers. And there were district level consultations that have happened, 1,500 districts from across the country at the BEO level have given their inputs on what should go into the NCF. In addition, there were a number of consultations that we've had over the months, talking to schools from across the country of various types. We've talked to individuals who have done a tremendous work in the field of education, maybe done many experiments, specific experiments, etc. We've had consultations with various ministries in the government. One of the challenges, we talked about teaching subjects in silos, right? Apparently, even the government machinery, each ministry works in silos. But education cuts across many ministries. Skill and entrepreneurship, has a role to play in education. Similarly, health and nutrition and women and child care has a role in education. Tribal education, tribal welfare department also is concerned about education. So there was a lot of consultations that were held at the interministerial level as well. I don't know the number of consultations, but I think it's pretty huge. So what is it that we are trying to do is this. You understand the ground reality, you understand the problems. What we have tried to do today is a small attempt where we are trying to seed some thoughts of what we carry from the NEP and as the principles of NCF, trying to share with you and seek your inputs and what are the possibilities for the curriculum framework. So obviously you come from very rich experience on the ground. You see the challenges every day. And each school has a different experience. Each person, each one of you has principles and have very rich experience. And those ideas we're trying to capture and then try and generalize those and see how it can be taken as a curriculum framework which is applicable across the country. Again, curriculum framework which we've been talking about is not a prescription. The curriculum framework is a platform which opens up a lot of opportunities to customize learning based on the conditions, etc. It's a framework and it is not a prescription. So what we are trying to do from the exercise today is to take those ideas which can become a generic, part of a generic framework, which eventually when it comes back to you should give you a lot of opportunities at your school to try out different things which has not happened in the past, but which is currently aligned with the NEP document which was accepted for the nation as such. And hoping think that it will create bring about not just incremental but very radical changes which the country really needs. Once again, thank you very much for taking your time up, and a special thanks to Dr. Senthil for really bringing in a structure to the kind of work that we wanted to do today. Thank you very much, sir.
People from the participants, how was your day? I know that you have taken some time with us here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very quickly, I came here to see last evening when Dr. Senthil called me, can you come down? In fact, he thought that I am far away out of the city. Luckily, I was in the city, and then when he called, he told this is what is happening, this is the question. The draft paper was sent to me. And I was told that as far as CISE's schools are concerned, you share the ideas, what the practices are there. I came prepared for talking about that, but I did not talk much about it. Instead, I learned a lot of things about the National Curricular Framework, and it was a very good learning experience. Thank you, Dr. Senthil and Soundria Group of Institutions. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone? Quickly. Any reflections?
Firstly, I would like to thank all the dignitaries present here today, and indeed it was a very enriching session for me, because past couple of years I've been slightly out of loop of the CBSE curriculum, but quite a lot of new learnings for me to understand how the Indian curriculum is transforming towards, competing the Western curricula, which we always talk about. And like today I was just mentioning someone that even though some of us have been teaching international curricula for a decade or two, but see, we are all products of Indian curriculum, and then which has been quite sound initially, then yeah, somewhere lost the way, and I think it's coming back on track. And I'm very happy to see the prep work from the framework committee. Definitely this is very intensive. I will definitely go back and talk about this to quite a lot of people, because a lot of times we end up making very generic remarks that people sitting in Delhi never bother about us, but they seem to be bothering a lot about us now, so which is a very good welcome change. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank the members of the Soundria group for being such lovely hosts. Indeed, this is a fantastic school and a very welcoming culture that I could see. Thank you so much for being a nice host.
I'm very much happy, and it is kind of a very good workshop for us. So yesterday I was thinking that why they have sent this to us like that. Like they have sent the draft as well as mandate as well as one more 360 pages NCF. So usually what we do is, if we get the circular or whatever, we will just forward it to teachers. Like what sir said, like we have to read first. So today I understood what is the value of it, why they have said. I took the printout, I have read, and it was a beautiful experience for us that you have given homework for all the principals. Hope everyone read, everyone prepared and came, like they were having a paper with the answers for the questionnaires. This kind of workshops actually needed for our update or whatever the day-to-day. Like principals should get updated, and in this Bangalore North actually we were not having any workshops. So usually whatever the workshop we have to move to the south areas, and CBSE teachers or principals or state boards also, maximum whatever the workshops were conducted only in the south zone. So this is a wonderful experience for all the principals, so that south zone principals have come to north side, I guess. Yes, so usually from here we used to come for LROC or whatever education today or whatever the workshop, we used to go there. So we are very happy for conducting such a wonderful workshop, and we have gone for our experiential learning today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. With that note, I don't want to come in between you and lunch. First of all, thanks Dr. Chetan for convincing me, okay? Saturday, the evening, I was driving back after a whole long day and was going back to hotel. And somehow Kirtan and Dr. Chetan, they made sure that I am part of this particular conversation. First of all, thank you Chetan and thank you Kirtan and team Soundarya for wonderfully putting it across. Because I know that it was not very easy to get 30-35 people on a short duration time. And I think I loved the way, because morning 10:30 Sunday we had the first round of call, evening we had a call, yesterday afternoon we had a call, just to ensure that people are reaching on time, they don't have any kind of challenges. But to put across a program like this for a nation building activity, I will call this a nation building activity, because each one of your contribution is, I'm going to hand over officially to them, or I'll ask Kirtan to basically hand it over to them, so that at least this goes as a voice of all of you in the larger pool. And how it comes out, I think that's secondary part of it, but I think it's our duty as teachers to contribute to the cause and try experimenting a lot of things, which is very important for all of us, right? So with that note, thanks to the technical team out here which gave me the mic on time, and I think it was nice of him. He remembered that I always require a collar mic. He brought it, but somehow it's failed today. Don't worry. Next time, Madana said, don't worry. So the whole thought is that I think when you come back and do such session, it's always good to apni jaat mein, the Hindi saying, apni jaat mein, it's much more easy to share and thought. And thank you very much. Each one
is like and they have a very what should I say, a difficult time, because admission in different state, like that 6+ for grade 1. Why this cannot be like uniformly be there across, so that parents don't have this type of problem and schools don't have this type of problem?
From the practitioner's perspective, whenever anything new comes in, there's 1 year gap year issue will come. So this year we are going through that particular challenge. Always in Kendra Vidyalaya, it has been, they have been always, the method has been followed. But what exactly happens is that some schools don't follow the protocols as given. It's all about marriage of convenience for their own admission. Some don't have nursery, some don't have LKG, some don't have UKG.
State to state also.
No, that's a point which is very important point. I think now, thanks, I think this time after once KV announced it anything, there were a lot of disturbance in the country. Many states have aligned now. But now this has caused also one more problem, that there is a vacuum which has come for 1 year. There is a vacuum which has come here. But my suggestion as a practitioner, not from NEP or any government body, the children are in the progressive years. So when they are in progressive years, there will be a challenge. So just take that. Don't wait for certain things to be done. You can't say, always there's a question whether it is April 28th is correct or May 1st is correct. There's nothing called that. We agree on a common norm and go ahead. If we find the children being progressive, see, I am one of the KV students. I have completed my 10th at 14+, not even 15 completed. Now nobody can say, 15 should have been completed. So I'm talking about 1990. Okay, it's not 85 to be precise. 85 to be precise. So 85 when you finished at that time, you were just 14 years. But you're on a progressive structure. When you're on a progressive structure, accommodate that gap and keep moving on. Okay, many times tell me frankly, ma'am, I think I don't want to leave it on a negative note, but every day 7:30 evening we get one circular. Not one, 5 circulars we get. How many of us read, like what she said? Many of us not are going through that. I have been requesting, what is the sanctity of 7:30? Which usme muhurat karke even ask some of the CBSE officials. Because we meet them on formal and informal. So they have said very interesting point. They said that we finish the meeting at 5:30 or so, the paper gets printed, signed, becomes a PDF. Before officially comes the WhatsApp University works faster than us. So most of the groups are certain. Right. So can I request Kirtan and the Soundarya team to please come and hand over this to officially to them. Can I request Rajendra and others to come in? Sorry, sir.
All the feedback that we have received. So effort of so many hours of labor. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
My role gets over here. It's all yours.
Thank you,
Render the vote of thanks. Can you be seated, everybody?
Good afternoon, everyone. It has indeed been an amazing of learning for all of us. I wish to thank you all for being present here, especially on such a short notice. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Chetan Singhai, Associate Professor, Ramaya University of Applied Sciences. We would also like to thank Dr. M.K. Raghavendra and Dr. Walish, Senior Consultant, National Curriculum Framework. Thank you for making all our voices and opinions being heard. It's time to thank the man who held it all together and yet created this wonderful space for ideas and suggestions to flow, Dr. A. Senthil Kumaran, sir. A sincere thanks to Mrs. Anupama Ramachandra, Secretary of Bangalore Sahodaya School Complex, Mr. Benny Priyapase, President KISA, and Mr. Prasad Longwalker, Principal KLE School. We would like to thank Dr. Kumaran and Mr. Ajay, colleagues of Dr. Chetan Singhai, for being here with us today. A heartfelt gratitude to the delegates present here, Mr. Yashwant Raj P, co-founder and director of 21K Schools, Mr. Venkata Suresh, head of school, Valistis International School, Mrs. Bhanumati, HD Principal, KD Malleshwaram, Mr. K.S. Sridhar, Principal, Vidyapurna Prajna, Mrs. Seema Gupta, Principal, Navkees Educational Center, Dr. Zoya Nambyar, Principal, Presidency, Kasturi Nagar, Mrs. Shampa Das, Educationist, Mr. Suman, Director, Shri Niketan, Mrs. Renu Dimri, Principal, DPS Bangalore West, Mrs. Usha Joseph, Vice Principal, Air Force School, Jalhalli, Mr. Danush Kumar, AO, Nisarga Vidyalaya, Mrs. Rovina, Teacher, Siddhartha, Public School, Mrs. Kakoli Mukherjee, Senior Coordinator, Navkees Educational Center, Mrs. Rajeshwari R, Principal, Representative, Vishwa Vidyapith, Mrs. Panakal Mary, Principal, Shri Abhaya Vidyavani, Mrs. Vidya Nagraj, Principal, Delhi World Public School, Dr. Prashanti Shashikant, Principal, Zen International Public School, Mrs. Benita, Principal, SPS. I would like to thank our CEO sir, Mr. Kirtan, for taking this initiative. A sincere thanks to the principals of Saundarya Group of Institutions present here today, Mr. Suresh Hegadi sir, Mrs. Chinnamma Kavarappa, Mr. Mahabaleshwar Tunga, Mrs. Kripa Ardev, Mr. Mahesha, Dr. Sanjeev Salunke, Mrs. Lata Parsati and their respective teams. Finally, I thank my dear principal, Mrs. Renuka Devi of Saundarya Central School, and also all my coordinators and their team and efforts for making this event a successful one. Once again, I thank each one of you for making time and being here on short notice and contributing meaningfully to the discussion held today. Thank you.
Today has truly been wonderful. With immense gratitude, I once again thank each one of you. Lunch. Yeah, can we all gather here for a group picture?
Just again. Sir, 1 second. Video ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Okay, sir.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ